Hey everyone, good evening. It's Ellen Lewis from Crazy for You. And tonight I am so excited to share with you the brand new Noro magazine. This is always like, this comes twice a year, and I swear it's like Christmas for me. I love it when the magazine comes. This is the new Noro, and it goes with the yarn that I showed you last week, which is their new yarn, Ohajiki. So if you haven't seen that, I'll put a link in the description so that you can see that video where I talk all about that new yarn. And there are a lot of other yarns featured in the magazine that I know that I have done reviews on. This magazine, of course, is kind of promoting their new yarn, but I love that they also have designs in there for some of the yarns that we have loved for a long time, like um, Kakigori and Kompeito and Natsumeki and Sonata. So just to name a few. Beautiful fibers all, and they are really, really nice designs this year. I think Carla Scott, who is the editor-in-chief of this magazine, did an absolutely beautiful job this season selecting the patterns from, I know she must get, thousands of submissions, selecting the patterns and doing a really nice job this time, especially of bringing in a lot of crochet. I know a lot of my audience is not necessarily crocheters, but there's a huge trend toward crochet, I think, generally. So I think that's really cute. And in particular, I think she's done a beautiful job picking designs for crochet that take advantage of what crochet does best. And we'll talk about that as we get into it. So, hey, everybody. Yep, I am live, right? Something's wrong on Facebook. So it looks like my Facebook stream is not going. I'm not sure why, but yeah. So if you know anybody that usually watches on Facebook, I apologize. So anyway, hey Maria, hey Amelia, hey Jal, hey Anna and Barbara. So nice to see you guys. I just love knowing that you're there. Um, and there's somebody out there to talk to. So wonderful. So tell me in the chat if there is a particular garment that you have seen on Ravelry or whatnot that you are particularly interested in, that you wanted to know more about. I have, as usual, prepared a little presentation to kind of go through each and every one of the patterns. And I do this because, one, it helps me get more familiar with the patterns. But two, I think it's important to sort of know what shape they are. So I think before you maybe buy a pattern, if you're not going to get the whole magazine, maybe before you buy one of the patterns individually, it's really nice to know things like, is the lace charted? Is this a drop shoulder or a set-in sleeve? Is this worked in one piece? Those kinds of things. So I've featured, as usual, the kind of the highlights and the things that I think are important about that. But I do have the magazine right here. So if there's something that you need me to look at as far as the schematic or anything else, please let me know and I'm happy to do that. So yay. Hey Norma, hey Terry. All right, so let's look at these. Is this? No, I want to do this, I think. Okay. So the first pattern in the magazine is just a super, super easy little baby blanket. And this is by Annabelle Spear, and it's worked in Natsumeki, which is a beautiful cotton and silk blend. And it's just, it's just easy. And this is an example of the kind of thing I like for Noro, just to let Noro do its job. Just let the yarn take center stage and do what it does best. But in order to keep it from being boring, because nobody wants a boring knit, right? Especially not my gal Amelia there. This has a little basket weave pattern in there. So it's meditative. I think it's easy, but it doesn't distract in any way. And it did talk about kind of how Noro doesn't actually distract from the pattern. We'll kind of look at that and talk about it as we go through. So worked in Natsumeki rectangular blanket. Yes, that needs a T on there. So super easy on that one. And I missed the first one. So this was my opening slide, everybody, just to show you the magazine and the yarns that are featured in there. All right, we talked about that. Okay, so this is the first of the crochet garments that are in there. This is called Scallop. It's worked in Akari solo, and it's worked all in one piece um, in, this pretty little star motif. I know that crochet can be kind of stiff, but I think with this being open like it is, it would be really, really cute in the Akari. I think that's a beautiful purple color. Love that in the solo. So you get sort of some mild variation in the color, but not any sort of striping. And this next one is Seraph. This is by Mary Lynn Patrick, and we know her from um, quite a few garments that she's designed for Noro. This is a really pretty pullover with a set-in sleeve, so you can see how it fits a little more closely. It's worked in that beautiful green that we looked at last week, the new color. And it's worked flat and seamed, and it has a drop stitch motif right here. So that gives it a little bit of interest. So you've got some garter stitch, some drop stitch, some stockinette, and I think that's really cute. And this is Cockle. And I just like to give a shout out to whoever did the model choices. I love this model. She's so beautiful and she looks like a real woman. And she's not, she's not 20 years old. So I think this is a great step. This beautiful model wearing this Cockle garment designed by Melissa Deneke McGill. This is worked in Akari plus Akari solo. And this little textured stitch is worked by carrying the solo yarn at the front as you're working your knit stitches. So it's carried along, not quite a slip stitch, but you kind of have to play with that as you do it to see exactly how it works. I have not had a chance to, swatch this, so I don't know exactly, but I did read it. And yeah, you're carrying that contrast yarn in the front every like pearl bit. So anyway, cute, pretty. Again, that green color is really nice. Hey, Shirley, nice to see you. Okay, here's another crochet one, and this has got, they call it kind of a granny square. I don't think it really looks like a granny square. Those of you who are better crocheters than I am can tell me what this is called when it has this sort of starburst effect. But this is one of the most popular looks. If you look at Seven for All Mankind or any of the other kind of ready to wear modern youthful sorts of houses, you'll see that the fringe is huge and the crochet is absolutely huge. This is worked in Sonata, which is a sort of a semi-solid, and then Sonata Shima, which is a long color repeat, Noro in a fingering weight cotton and silk blend. So, this is going to be very pretty and very light. And this is very modern. And tell me in the chat if you love this. I really want to know your thoughts on this style of garment, this whelk. I think it's really fun and beautiful, especially for summer. And I know that we were supposed to have received our trunk show today, so I'll have to look and see if this came in. I can't wait to try it on. Okay, I don't know if this is pronounced tear or Terry, but by Deborah Newton. And I love Deborah Newton. She's had some hugely popular designs. She was on the cover of Noro magazine several issues back. And we had her when we were doing Noro Club. And she's just the most incredible and adventurous designer. She makes things super, super interesting and fun, but not fiddly. And do you know what I mean? So this is an 8-row textured pattern. It looks like there's a whole lot more going on than there is, but it has a very nice overall feel that, like that baby blanket, doesn't interrupt or compete with the colors, and the colors don't compete with it. Maria says, So I've never knit with Noro. I am kind of on the fence about it. Yeah. Well, anybody in that's watching wants to tell me what their thoughts are about working with Noro for the summer, be happy to hear that. So Maria asks, which yarn would you recommend for a summer garment? So any of the fibers that I'm talking about here, Maria, would be perfect for a summer garment. The Sonata is one of the most popular summer yarns because it is a light fingering weight. It has no wool at all. It's beautiful, intense colors, and it's probably the most accessible because it doesn't have any kind of color shift. So when you're working with it, you're not thinking, wow, I'm working with Noro. You're just sort of thinking, I'm working with a single ply. And it's it's important to remember that Noro is a single ply yarn. So like other single ply yarns that you might have worked with, especially fingering ones, they don't have another strand twisted with them, which would increase their strength. So they do tend to be a smidge more fragile. So you just have to be aware of that. But Kompeito is a beautiful yarn for summer. The Ohajiki is lovely for summer. Noro doesn't do anything heavier than, say, a worsted for summer. So the heaviest yarn that I'm showing tonight, anything in, is going to be Akari and Akari Solo, which works up at about 16 to 18 stitches over 4 inches. So any of these DK, Sport, fingering weight Noros would be perfect for a summer garment, either one that I'm featuring here or another one that you like. So Amelia says, I've liked both tops on this model with the silver hair. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe because she's closer to my body shape than most, Amelia says. I think that could definitely have something to do with it. We're talking about this beautiful model here. I think it is really, really important to be able to see yourself, to have this diversity in the models, whether it's race or ethnicity, body shape, age, all of these kinds of things, because knitters run the gamut. We are a hugely diverse bunch, which is so beautiful because we're brought together by our love of knitting. So I agree with you very much, Amelia. And Amelia's responding to Maria here. I was originally very skeptical of Noro, but started with the accessories that let it do its thing and found I really like it. Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Amelia. I think I would love to hear anybody else chime in because I do think that Noro is a special yarn. It's very special in terms of the colors and the fibers and the way that it does. And it's the kind of yarn that you just sort of have to be comfortable relinquishing control a little bit. And if that's tough for you, then you're going to want to start small. Yep. Ease yourself in. Okay. Now back to the program. And thank you, Amelia. I really appreciate you jumping in like that. Okay. Here's another one called Sundial. This is by Annabelle Spear. This is worked in Kompeito. And you can see the difference in a yarn like Kompeito versus the Ohajiki. Ohajiki colors are very clear, right? This is definitely blue, and the colors that it's mixed with are definitely the colors that they are. Something like Kompeito has more of a marled or a blending sort of look. And people often ask, well, what's the difference? They're both, cotton blends in a sport weight or whatever. The way that the colors play out are very intentional with Noro. There's nothing that happens by accident. So Kompeito is intended to have this sort of hazy, impressionist look and feel, which is very pretty. Sundial is a cardigan, very easy. It's drop shoulder. There's no trim at the front, and it just has a little bit. The arm is made by increasing a little bit here, so you have less fullness in the body, but still enough sleeve length there. So very pretty. And this is in that kind of yellow colorway of Kompeito, but it would be gorgeous. And if you wanted something more colorful, you could use the Ohajiki in this, absolutely. Anna loves sundial. Yeah, I think it's really pretty. That would be super cute belted, I think also. She has that gorgeous wide belt on, but if you wanted to close that up and belt it over, I think that would be a nice look also. Okay, now this one, conch, is not actually on Ravelry. I had to take a picture of the magazine, and you can see this sort of uh, reflection there. This is a beautiful, easy little rectangle top by Melissa Leitman. It is just two rectangles. The beauty of it is in this fine gradient, sort of semi-solid appearance that Sonata has, and then this gorgeous, uh, it's not a flower motif, it's actually a leaf motif that is worked separately and then appliqued on. So tell me if you like this or if this appeals to you. And it does have a shaped armhole, so it's a little bit more of a closer fit. So I think it's really pretty. It doesn't hurt that it's in my favorite color, of course. Abalone, also by Melissa Leitman. This one is worked in Kompeito. And now you can see the difference between, say, the purple Kompeito and this greenish Kompeito. So the darker colors have a little bit of a different, but they still have that sort of overall hazy effect, which dampens the colorway a little bit. Plus, this is worked in a reverse stockinette faced pattern, and that helps to blend the colors a little bit also. This is a drop shoulder, 3/4 sleeve, and it has two separate 28-row repeat lace patterns. They're very similar. The only difference is that right up here, you can see that this one has a little eyelet inside of the diamond. So this is a very pretty one also. Like I said, I really like all of these. This is not new. This was featured in a magazine several years ago. This is worked in Sonata plus Akari, crocheted, a vertical construction, which is a much easier feat to pull off in crochet than it is in knitting. But this was wildly popular, and I think it has to do with those cool, watery colors and the vertical stripes as much as anything. So Amelia says, conch looks like fun, but sundial is the most likely to make and wear so far. Yeah, I think you and Anna both, I think, like that one. Oops, why did I go all the way to the end? Hang on. Okay, here's another one. This is not new. Again, this was in the same magazine as the last one. This is a more classic granny square approach. With a black in between. And you can see how different it is with the black in between versus the white in between that we saw before. Completely different look, right? And we actually had this, so I sharing a picture of myself wearing it because I also am not a model. Um, yeah, so you can see it's kind of fun and playful. All right, this is one of a handful of accessories from the collection. This is called Aster by Jacob Seifert. This is worked in yukata, which is kind of a sport weight yarn with a generous, like 700 yards per skein. It comes in a big 200-gram skein. So this is lovely, and it's just a little scarf. He's worked short rows in garter stitch to make these wedges of color. And I think playing with color blocking in Noro is one of the more fun things that we do with accessories and small garments. This is Structure Pullover, and it's by Jacqueline Van Dillen. This has been the most requested or commented on pattern, at least among my audience. I think it's beautiful. I don't know how much of it is that this color is just stunning and very, very beachy and appealing. It is, of course, on back order. I have a whole pile of it ordered, but I'm waiting for that to come. Very, very simple. If you look at the schematic, the body is just rectangles and the arms are rectangles. So there's no shaping in there to get in the way of the lace, which, and, not just lace, but, some of these patterns. So it's almost like a sampler. You can see there's this little bit of leaf lace and then this other kind of eyelet ribbing kind of stuff. So different things definitely makes the knitting fun. I think it's really pretty. And long like that makes a great tunic that you could wear over. I could see this with some linen pants or a skirt. Super cute. Love that. This is by Way Wilkins. This is called Cruise. This is not a new pattern. This was originally shown in Kakigori, and it's been reimagined in Sonata, which is very pretty. I know a lot of us really prefer chart for lace, but this is an asymmetrical triangle. So she has written the pattern out and included the increases in there, which is kind of nice if you've got, a lot of shaping going on. So very pretty. And don't you just love that color? Love that. Here's another shawl. This one is by Melissa Leitman. It's called Java. And this is Kakigori, 2 colors. You can see that the darker color is just played along the edge here and then kind of in here. I think, honestly, it might really sort of irritate me to have to buy a whole skein of Kakigori in another color for just a few rows. And I might, if it were me, just grab a skein of Sonata or something you have lying around in cotton and do that extra little bit. So, but this is a beautiful pattern. Melissa's a very talented designer. And just as a side note, she designs in both knit and crochet. This is your classic center spine increase triangle. It's symmetrical, but she's done a nice job working this stockinette and then this little lace pattern in there, which I think is very pretty. And the color, again, is gorgeous. Note this sort of open texture because we'll see a lot of that. This is Trellis by Laura Zucate, and this is a little top and skirt outfit. I am not at all clear on how you would style this skirt. What are we wearing under that? So anyway, it is cute, and the top is adorable. They're all rectangles. The skirt, the top, the sleeves, all rectangles, so super easy to do. It is worked in Kakigori, and you can see Kakigori has sort of an overall solid effect, but some subtle striping. Again, the way Kakigori looks and pulls, and the fact that it has this little bit of a tweed in there is, again, just part of the way Noro does yarn and colors. The lace pattern looks complicated, but it's really just 4 rows. So very, very pretty. Ooh, yes, maybe a swimsuit cover-up. Very cute. Absolutely. Good idea. Thanks. What would I do without you, Amelia? Okay, this one is Ginny Stein's favorite. And can't you just see Ginny looking all elegant in this sort of long, open cardigan? I think absolutely. Again, we're seeing that sort of eyelet lace. It seems to me to be a theme in this magazine. This is worked in Sonata, which I said is a fingering weight yarn, but it's carried double strand. So it's worked on a US 8 at kind of a heavy worsted gauge. Modified drop shoulders, which means that you have a little less ease in the shoulder area, more ease in the body, less ease in the shoulder area, but it is still solidly modified. It is still solidly a drop shoulder. And it's worked in one piece to the armhole and then divided for fronts and back. This is by Gail Bunn, and she's done quite a few pieces in this collection. So this is the garment that was chosen to be on the cover. It's called Filigree, again with this sort of eyelet lace, which I think is beautiful, very horizontal pattern, which plays nicely with this particular colorway of Ohajiki, which has more of a color variance than any of the others. Look in the video that I did last week, and you'll see what I mean in terms of this colorway. Again, this is nothing but two big rectangles that have been sewn at the shoulder and at the side, but not all the way, because you have this lovely split side, which makes it very flattering, very easy to wear. It's an easy 4-row lace pattern. So even though this looks complicated with all the colors and the lace, it's really a very easy beginner lace kind of pattern. Again, eyelet lace. This is worked in Akari. This is a 6-row eyelet lace pattern drop shoulder. This has been given a little fun fringe. So a little bit heavier gauge than this one before, but super cute, very nice. And this one has a little sleeve on it in case you really want to have a little sleeve on your garments. And you don't have to add the fringe, but it is really fun and very, very current. Now we get into some of the ones that are designed by the Noro design team. When I first started carrying Noro, I think they had a whole book of these that came out, and now they've incorporated them into the magazine, which I think is really nice. This one's called Yaoi. It's worked in Akari. It has this little eyelet garter band. It's drop shoulder. And I like this self-finishing at the bottom. I want to draw your attention to that because it doesn't have a ribbing there. So that's a very kind of clean look that's really pretty. And it plays with the color blocking that you get in the Noro. So they have made no effort to match the colors, and I think that's gorgeous. It's just part of the play. This is very beautiful and elegant, mostly because it's in that sort of white color. This is an Akari Solo 6-row lace pattern that is worked on kind of alternate knit and, stockinette and reverse stockinette. So the lace kind of falls inside. So really pretty. It is not a self-finished hem and cuff. You actually pick that up and do that afterwards. So sorry about that. This is Satsuki, worked in Natsumeki. I couldn't tell at first whether this was a cardigan or a pullover, but yeah, this is a pullover. Again, no effort to match the stripes, playing with that color blocking. But I love this cable that runs up the front and then around the neck. And you can see down here, it has a split hem. And in the back, there is also this same cable worked across at the top of the split. So very pretty. Natsumeki has some gorgeous colors. Absolutely beautiful. This is Minazuki. This is Kompeito. Very different effect, this particular Kompeito, to the one that we saw with the in the yellow that the sundial was knit in. Now this is worked sideways with a lace inset, and we think, oh, it's so easy, it's no shaping. But I personally find sideways knitting very fiddly. And I wanted to draw your attention to the schematic, which I've put here, so that you can see that this armhole hits in the kind of in the middle of the garment. And the placement of these lace insets, it to me just looked a little bit fiddly. And that's the kind of stuff that I want to make you aware of before you're like, oh, I love that. It looks so easy. Not as easy as it looks. So I find that this sort of sideways construction is not nearly as easy as maybe it could be. Okay, this is gorgeous. I love this so much. Fumizuki. This is worked in Kakigori, drop shoulder cardigan with these. This isn't actually even a lace pattern. It's just some double yarn overs. Kind of work. I guess it is a pattern, a lace pattern. Anytime you have yarn overs, that there are, compensated, so it's a lace. Anyway, pretty easy. What I like about this is it's designed to have probably an extra 4 or 5 inches of ease at the front, which makes it very nice, especially if you are busty, but very pretty, kind of a swingy effect, very casual with that self-finished hem and cuff. So I think that's pretty too. I think they're all nice. This is Ohajiki again in that darker of the kind of teal. Very simple. It only comes in 2 sizes, has a huge amount of ease. Finished dimensions are 48 inches and 52 inches. So you can see that that ease gives quite a bit of sleeve length here. And look at this cute little eyelet heart motif. I think that's really sweet. This is the first of the crochet bags that I mentioned. I was talking about how in this issue, they used crochet for what crochet does best. And I think crochet is so much better for bags than knitting is because it's a lot stiffer and it doesn't have this stretch. So you can crochet a bag and know that it's not going to get saggy or stretch out. This one is using a stitch pattern called linked double crochet. I do not know what that entails, but I can guarantee you I'm going to be learning it because I think it's adorable. Here's another one, linked double crochet. These are all by Gail Bunn, by the way. This is called Fruity. This has self handles. I kind of like myself. I like these leather handles. I think it gives it a little polish. But this is very fun and playful and be a great little beach bag. This is worked in 4 colors of Sonata. And then here's Happy. This is intended to look with these little tassels to look like hibiscus blossoms. So I think that is so cute. And I don't know what it is about this color. I just love that. And I love the leather handles again. All right. And then this is a crochet pillow set worked in Sonata. And you can see it's not, the flowers, the petals sort of come up at the edges, giving it a really pretty 3D effect. And then the last one is this super cute little amigurumi, little pig and roly-poly caterpillar, which are just so cute. Mary in the shop loved those so much, and she went ahead and crocheted the little pig, and oh my God, it was so, so cute. So those are the like little fun and playful things that crochet is so good at. Again, what is crochet better at than knitting? Plenty of things, structured garments, or bags, that really need a little bit of stiffness to them. And of course, little critters like Piggy and Caterpillar, because it's so much easier to make 3D shapes kind of as you go with the crochet than with the knitting. So very, very fun. And that is all I have time for tonight. I've run over our allotted time. I appreciate you being with me. And please, please, please tell me in the chat which ones you love the best, because I love to hear your opinion. I know you probably don't go out there on Ravelry necessarily and, mark a favorite, but tell me in the chat which ones you love and which ones you think you might make. So thank you so much for being here tonight. And until next week, keep knitting and create something beautiful. I will see you then. Oh, before I go, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. And if you love this video, please give it a like. And if you know somebody else that might, go ahead and share it with your friend. That really helps. Thank you so much.